Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dog with a Bone podcast, Unleashed bonus episodes. These episodes are for you to listen while I work hard on season 2. For those who have not already listened to season 1, you can find my investigation into the unsolved murder of John Bernie Burnside on Spotify or wherever you listen. All 10 episodes are available to you right now. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our third Unleashed episode. This has actually been much harder than I had expected because I want to dig into each case and have to remind myself constantly that this is supposed to be high level. So I have to tell you that there's going to be some questions I ask or I'm curious about, and questions have probably been answered somewhere or available online. But as I mentioned, I'm trying to keep this high level, so I'm not doing deep dives. And I say all this because I don't want any negative reviews coming out that I don't do my research. You know how some people can be. So the case that we're going to talk about today is the case of Elizabeth Barraza, who was 29 years old at the time of her murder. This case was submitted by a Dog with a Bone listener, Meredith Lawson. Meredith, I have to say that you really had me on this case. I just could not stop digging, and hopefully justice will come soon for Elizabeth and her family. Elizabeth was known and loved by her family as Liz, and so that's how I will refer to her throughout this episode. Liz lived in Tomball, Texas with her husband, Sergio. Liz and Sergio were married in 2014. And to kind of set the scene of what happened that day, Sergio and Liz were getting ready to celebrate their 5th wedding anniversary here in Orlando at Disney. Liz was a huge Star Wars and Harry Potter fan, which is just so awesome, and there's no place better to celebrate being a Star Wars and Harry Potter fan than here in Orlando. Liz was actually a member of a Star Wars charity group, which just goes to show her love for Star Wars. Liz had decided that she was going to hold a garage sale to help raise some money for their trip. And what we know about the crime is this. On January 25th, 2019, Liz was in her driveway around 6:30 a.m. getting things ready for this garage sale. The houses are very close together, which means there's a lot of video surveillance from home security cameras, which is really a good thing in this case. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But what we see in the video is Liz is out there at 6:30 a.m. getting ready for the garage sale. It is still dark out, but you can see Liz from the light above the garage or a light in the garage. Like it's not pitch black. There's light that you can see Liz out in the driveway. The Ring camera shows Sergio leaving the home around 6:48 a.m. for work. According to the family, Liz normally left before Sergio does for work. So she would have normally already been on the road to work, but this morning is different. A couple of questions I had there was, she's scheduled to not work this day? Did she have the day off and she was doing this garage sale? Whereas Sergio didn't have a regular work schedule. He really was like a day-to-day kind of work schedule. There wasn't any set time. Sergio leaves for work at 6:48 a.m. And this is where it gets crazy. 4 minutes later, at 6:52 a.m., surveillance video shows what authorities believe is a black Nissan Frontier truck pull up. This is a pretty common truck in Texas. Trying to locate this truck has been a real challenge because I think everyone in Texas drives trucks. The truck pulls up and a person gets out of the truck and they approach Liz. You can see in the video that there seems to be some words exchanged. Something is said, And then the individual shoots Liz. I will post a video for you to look at because I cannot stop looking at it. Like, I've watched it over 50 times. A few things that stand out to me right away is, and the investigators believe this as well, is that the killer is wearing a disguise. It looks like a woman's costume and the walk is a little funny. It's weird because I keep watching it and trying to pick something out, and it's hard to see exactly. It definitely looks like a costume. Is it a female? Is it a male? I don't know. The one thing that stood out to me right away in the video, though, is that the killer did not hesitate. There was no hesitation. I don't see any panic. The killer was calm, confident, shot her, and then left. Liz was shot 2 times with a revolver, and when she fell to the ground, the killer fired 1 more shot. This was personal. This was somebody who said, "You're done on the ground. I'm going to shoot you 1 more time to make sure you are dead." This was very calculated, planned, confident, was not in a hurry, was not worried about anyone else seeing them. The killer shot her and then just got back in the truck and drove away. The other interesting thing about why this case intrigues me is because the killer didn't panic, was calm. They walked up to her, confident. The killer shot her twice. She fell, fired 1 more shot. This sounds like a hit to me. This sounds like a hit. This sounds like somebody knew what their job was and they did it. The killer used a revolver, which, if you don't know this already, a revolver does not expel casings. So there's no shell casings to identify a certain weapon. The killer didn't need to pick anything up. They came prepared. They knew what they were doing. The surveillance video does show this truck driving away and then again returning to make sure she was dead. To me, that just screams, I had a job, I did it, and now I just need to make sure that she is dead. Let's talk about the garage sale because this is a big clue in this case when we look at this. Some things about Liz is she had no enemies. Everyone loved her. She wasn't into drugs. She didn't live a high-risk lifestyle that we've talked about before. Here she is getting ready for this garage sale and basically executed in her driveway. And when we look at the garage sale, these are some things that we know about. The garage sale was actually something that was not planned out far in advance. It was just advertised that morning. She had just put up signs that morning about the garage sale. And her dad had told authorities that he was going to be there with Liz at the garage sale to help earn some extra money. I guess her dad wasn't working at the time. And so Liz said, hey, if you want to come over and sell some things for some extra money, come on and do that. Well, what happened was her dad had called that night and said, you know what? No, I'm not going to come to the garage sale. I'm going to go look for employment. And so her dad canceled within 12 hours or less of when this garage sale was going to happen. Nobody really knew about the garage sale except for Liz, Sergio, Liz's parents, and maybe Sergio's mom. And since she had just put out signs that morning, she wasn't advertising it. It wasn't in the paper. There was no, hey, we're going to have this huge garage sale. There was nothing taken from the garage sale, no money, no items. I mean, they literally, whoever the killer is, came there to kill Liz, and that's what they were there for. It's interesting to me that what would have happened if her dad didn't cancel? Would her dad have been there at 6:30 in the morning? I don't think so. When was this sale going to happen? This is one of the questions that came to my mind. Even though she was out there at 6:38 in the morning getting ready for this garage sale, was the garage sale supposed to start at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, or after work? I'm just curious about her plan or Sergio's plan on this. I mean, you would think the weekend prior would have been a good time to have this garage sale, but this was a very last minute decision, which is really critical information because not everyone knew about this. One of the things I struggled with, or some people that I found online struggled with, is why is Liz out there at 6:38 getting ready for a garage sale when it's dark out? And a couple of people mentioned that, in Texas at this time in January, it gets hot later on in the day. So she's out there getting ready for the garage sale. And I looked up and sunrise was actually, and I told you, see, I wasn't going to do deep dives, but here I am looking up sunrise times. The sunrise was at 7:48. So it seems like it was kind of in that pre-sunrise state where I can see in the video the garage light being on. So she had some light. And the other night I got back from the gym and it was already dark out. My light came on above the garage and I looked around and I felt completely safe. If I were to have a garage sale, if you flip the time, right, at 6:38 p.m., 6:38 a.m., it was dark, but it wasn't like it was 3 or 4 a.m. Like people would have been leaving to go to work. She had on the light from the garage to help. But what I really can't wrap my head around is this. What would happen if Liz wasn't already outside? Sergio leaves, and again, 4 minutes later, that tells me that they were watching the house. That tells me that's not a coincidence. She was outside for a reason at that time. He leaves. She's already outside sorting, and it just so happens that they pull up at that time. What would happen if she wasn't outside? Would they have gone inside the house? Do you follow me here? It was the perfect setup. She's outside. It's dark. The husband just leaves. 4 minutes. They happen to pull up. The killer gets out, walks out calmly, probably asks her name, does something, shoots her twice, does a final execution shot, drives away, drives back to make sure she's dead, and that's it. And what would have happened if her dad was out there or a neighbor came out? There's no perfect crime, but my goodness, this really has me spiraling. Of course, when we talk about persons of interest, we have to look at Sergio. I tried not to look too hard at Sergio because, like I said, I'm trying not to get down these rabbit holes. Sergio, of course, right? Husband just left. His wife gets killed. Did he plan this? Did he hire somebody? How did this happen where everything just lined up just right? What I found is that he has been interviewed multiple times by authorities. He has fully cooperated, has taken 2 lie detector tests. Reports say that he passed, but again, I'll say this, that doesn't mean anything. Lie detector test, it's a no-win situation. If I was ever in a situation where I was guilty or not guilty, I would not take a lie detector test because it doesn't matter which way it goes. It's never good enough. If he failed these tests, it'd be like he's guilty, and he might not be. But he passed it, and it's really not a sound tool. It's really just a tool for the investigator to see how you respond, but I would not do it. I wouldn't do it. So anyway, so he does do it. He passes. And they look at the video of when Sergio comes back to the house and basically is distraught. His face was very distraught. He was very upset, and so were her parents as well, at finding her and what just had happened. Sergio said he did watch the surveillance video of his wife being shot just one time, he said, just to see if he could recognize the killer. And he just said that he knows a lot of people consider him the prime suspect in her death, but he didn't have anything to do with it. He said that he loves Liz. He actually remarried, but still loves her, and just says, I only watched it once to see if I could identify or recognize who the killer is. A quote that he said was this, quote, I know I'm like the prime suspect in people's eyes. I know people immediately say it was the husband who did it. I understand that, but you have to know Liz and he said. You have to see us. I still love her to this day, end quote. He remarried a year and a half after Liz's murder to a woman named Amber. A lot of people raised their eyebrows at this. Like, your wife was just murdered a year and a half ago and you're already getting remarried. And what he says is that Amber had lost a sister, so they connected through their losses through that time. And he said that he still holds on to this Harry Potter suitcase that Liz packed for the trip. He said, quote, I kept it because it's a time capsule of her. I didn't want to give up on life and give up for Liz, too. I know she wouldn't want me to just stop. It doesn't make sense. It's like I'm living in a total alternate reality from what I was supposed to. I drive by the house every so often, looking at the life I could have had, end quote. The investigators believe that this was not random, but that someone was paid to kill Liz. So the question is, who? Who and why? There is no known enemies. She wasn't into drugs. She didn't live that high-risk lifestyle that would put her more at a risk. And I can't find any mentions of other persons of interest, which makes a crime like this harder to solve. I think we have to look at who wanted her dead. Was she the intended victim? I saw that a lot online, and that was one of the questions I had. Was Liz the intended victim? And what I mean by that is, was Liz a means to an end? Was Liz a message being sent to someone? To Sergio, her parents, his parents? Was there a reason why they targeted Liz? If Liz didn't have any enemies, she didn't live a higher risk lifestyle, then what is the motive for this? I still don't know what Sergio did for a living. I saw somewhere that he now works where Liz had worked back then, but I don't know what Sergio did for a living. I don't know if it was construction or something like that. Again, he had a very flexible schedule. He didn't have a set schedule. So I'm just curious what he did in the circles he ran in. And the killer had inside information. That, to me, is a significant point here. Nobody else knew about this garage sale except for Liz, her parents, Sergio, and his mom. The fact that her dad was going to be there and it changed the night before, there would have been 2 people there. And then it got canceled. So for me, I think Liz was who someone decided I'm going to take out to send a message. What that message is, I don't know. Again, people online were asking, well, did Amber know Liz? And when did Amber and Sergio meet? Was this something that she did to get the wife out of the way? And I'm sure that there's something out there and you all can deep dive for me. Did they know each other prior to this? I don't think so. It just is too perfect. It's just too perfect. The vehicle is actually seen approaching the neighborhood around 2 a.m. So the killer was already in the area in the neighborhood at 2 a.m. They're planning this hit and making sure they know the ins and the outs of the neighborhood. This is a dry run for me. This is someone who says, I got to know my house. I got to know where I'm going to go. I need to know my in and my out, and I'm going to wait. They waited for Sergio to leave. I continue to get stuck on the 4 minutes. 4 minutes. She happens to be outside, alone, and then shot. No neighbors, no one out. Why was she even out at that time? I don't think there's anything not normal with that, but what time was the garage sale going to start? That's a big question for me. If it was going to start at 11, why is she out at 6:30? I don't know if she was the intended victim. Some people were mentioning online about her being like misidentity. Maybe she was helping a friend leave a dangerous situation, or maybe they got the wrong house, but they exchanged words. You can see in the video that they have words before the killer shoots her. And I don't know what those words are. I did read a couple of comments from the detective on the case, and he said to Liz's parents, they would be shocked once they find out who did this. So I'm hoping that they have an idea. I know that they be on the lookouts out for this truck, which again, in Texas, who doesn't drive a truck? They were following the surveillance. And again, this is 2017. There is surveillance, there's ring cameras. I don't see how they couldn't follow the truck out of the neighborhood and then through the stoplights and find out who it is and get a license plate, but that hasn't happened. The FBI and Texas Rangers joined in on the investigation, and still there's been no arrest. The Harris County Sheriff's Office said that no one has been ruled out as a suspect. So they haven't ruled Sergio out. That's what that says to me. They have not ruled him out. If you have any information, you can reach out to Crime Stoppers. There is a reward for $50,000 for information that leads them to the shooter. That number is 713-222-8477. I really could talk about this case for hours, and I have. You can ask my team. I keep sending them messages like, okay, what about this? How is this? What time was sunrise? Why was the garage sale on Tuesday? I could literally go on and on about this case. I've watched that surveillance video of her getting shot over 50 times, if not more. I'm probably going to go watch it again now after this because I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing? And it's just, there's something that smells wrong here, and it's somebody very close to the family, for sure. And that's about it. So I want to thank Meredith again for submitting this case. She actually submitted this case as a possible season 2 case. And the reason I chose not to take it, even though I am this far deep into investigating the case, is this case has been covered by other podcasts, thankfully, and also has received national coverage. Even Nancy Grace did a segment on the case, hoping to draw more attention and bring new leads. And so definitely, Liz has gotten a lot of coverage, and I am very thankful for that. And, one of the hard parts about this is if this was a hit, that's very difficult to track somebody down. I have one more thing to say about this. I did read on Reddit or somewhere like that, where, take it with a grain of salt, that somebody said that in the video, you can hear the killer get in the truck. I'm wondering if there's 2 people in the truck, one driver and then the killer. But they said that you could hear somebody get in the car and saying something like, hit the beep or call the beep or hit the beep beep. And that's a signal. And they said if you're a truck driver or construction, you have those radios. And that was the signal to say it was done, that the hit was done and completed. I don't know. I can't find audio on the video, so I can't say that's true or not. Take that for what it's worth. All right. Well, thank you so much for this episode of Unleashed, and I'll see you next time.